You're listening to the Real Estate Runway podcast, powered by Quattro Capital, where we are all about alternative business and investment strategies to help you amplify life and maximize wealth. Here's your host, the recovering engineer turned multifamily investor, Chad Sutton.
All right, welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Runway podcast. I'm your host, Chad Sutton, and I am joined with a dear friend and colleague of mine, TJ Lokboj with SyndicationPro. He is a co-founder at SyndicationPro, which we'll explain what that platform is here in a moment. He is a managing partner with Holdfolio, which has a $385 million total asset value portfolio, and he is a Forbes contributor, publishing articles on adopting digital transformation. Man, I can't wait to dig into this. TJ, how you doing today, brother?
I'm doing great, brother. Thanks so much, Chad, for inviting me. Excited to be on your show, big fan, and looking forward to adding value through this conversation, man.
Hey, man, so I want to go into your bio, but not everyone who's talking to or who's listening today is going to know what SyndicationPro is, and they need to. So can you quickly explain what the company is, what the platform is, and why it's significant?
Absolutely. Would love to. So a little bit of a backstory, I think, would add a lot of value on how I got connected with SyndicationPro. So my background has been in technology and marketing and sales. And I've been doing that for several years. My journey in my career, while I was working in a lot of tech startups in Silicon Valley, as well as here in Utah, I started getting very interested in buying a small multifamily here in the Valley. And so got into my first deal, which was a fourplex. I house hacked that. Industry term. It was a phenomenal experience and such an education for me and my wife, who was my co-manager on that property. A year later, we were able to move out and kind of built a snowball effect of buying small deals here in the Valley. And it came to a point where we were able to have sufficient for us to take some risks. And I started my first partnership, which we decided to do a syndication firm here in Utah. So two partners who specialized in property management and construction. So we were fully vertically integrated there. And I was managing the acquisition side. And so for me, when I partnered with my colleagues, my very first focus, because I come from a technology background where I was supporting businesses to optimize systems and their processes. We're talking Fortune 500 companies. I realized we need to have systems in place, and I looked around to several solutions, demoed them, and I could not find a solution, Chad, that was easy to use. Didn't have a lot of upfront investment on implementation, and also that fit my methodologies on acquiring assets and raising capital. So
because it didn't exist. You're a man after my own heart, talking about systems and processes, man. That is the lifeblood of a business. Well, cash is the lifeblood of a business, but systems and processes are essential. So keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. And I 100% agree with that. So with my prospecting into different solutions, I came across this small solution called SyndicationPro. And, coming from my sales background, I decided, hey, this looks like a good solution, but if I'm going to make an investment, I need to do my due diligence. So I picked up the phone. I called Jacob Blackett, who was the CEO of SyndicationPro. We were able to connect and talk not only about real estate and kind of helping our firm set up properly, but we were also able to really dive in to the solution and how it was built. If you know Jacob, he has been raising capital online since 2014 and have really developed a lot of the best practices and then operationalized them into software. So that was validation point number one. Point number two was that when I got into the software, so I was one of the very first customers, decided that, this was a really good partnership. I could add a lot of value. So when they decided to raise their first seed round, I joined in as an angel investor in the company. And I had the wonderful opportunity to actually advise on the sales and marketing side of SyndicationPro. This is what I've been doing with other companies. And we grew 35% month over month that year.
Wow.
Going into this year, we're exploding all metrics. And And the biggest reason why is because we truly feel like we're adding a lot of value to an industry that we love and that we believe in and that we're a part of. So that was a long-winded answer of the backstory, but what Syndication Pro is we are the fastest growing and the top solution of helping syndicators, real estate syndicators and fund managers raise capital, manage their investor relations, and streamline reporting. So that's how we're supporting folks who are in the industry.
I love that, TJ. And I have to stack on that for a second because Quattro Capital is a user of Syndication Pro. We're a proud user of Syndication Pro. A couple of the things that we looked at all the tools out there, right? Now, there are some that have been around for a long time. They're clunky. They cost 50 grand to set up and they're even harder to maintain, right? There are a couple of other new ones, right? What I love about Syndication Pro is just like you said, it is built by people in the industry for people in the industry, right? So it's like the people who are using it have actually done what you're trying to do, who are building it have actually done what you're trying to do with it. And further, you hear me talk about Dan Sullivan's book a lot on this podcast, Who Not How. Ask yourself, who can help you do something, not how do I get it done? Well, sometimes there's a third piece of that, and that is what system, what can help me get it done, right? There is who or what and not how. So let me say that more clearly, who or what, not how. There we go. But this is a situation where, you can be buried in spreadsheets and error prone, right? Or you can have a beautiful, elegant solution that is branded with your colors and materials that investors see, and they can look on their phone like, wow, this is really great. These guys seem like an institution, right? And the experience is just wonderful. So I've got to commend you guys on that and kind of give that vote of confidence because we use it and it's made our life a whole lot easier, for an affordable price.
Awesome. Yeah, I really appreciate that endorsement. And, for me, I love the customer facing side. In the business today, I try my very best to get on the phone on calls. And, just because that's the biggest joy for me is to solve problems. Aside from the solution, you're absolutely right with the systems and processes. But I always tell people, forget about Syndication Pro, forget about all the solutions. What I really want to focus on is when you're onboarding any solution, you need to focus on the methodologies that you're adopting and does it align with your business? So first and foremost, let us try to understand your business. And if your focus is to streamline your investor relation process, if your focus is to raise capital more efficiently, this is how we built our software based on methodologies. Does that align with you? So for your listeners here, as they're prospecting any type of solution, it doesn't have to be just a investor portal, but it's just such an important piece as a software guy to understand what are the methodologies that are being built in the solution and how does that affect me adopting the solution with regards to my methodology. So anyways, if I appreciate the endorsement, really excited to add value to your group. You guys have been wonderful. And so, yeah, thanks so much for that.
Yeah. And that's just a small fraction of what you do. I noticed in your bio over here that you mentioned to me, you're also a very active writer at adopting digital transformation. So we are in an ever-changing world. You're a tech guy. You understand that. I'm kind of a tech guy, so I'm not quite the same level of nerdy, but, I'm just poking at you. But it's a very real thing that we have to manage as those of us who are running small and growing companies in this day and age. So let's dive into adopting digital transformation to stay competitive a little bit. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. And Chad, this word I know is being thrown out there in the industry, kind of like a buzzword, adopting digital transformation. But really what I'd love to do is kind of simplify what that means for a business owner, right?
Do it because I don't understand it. So
absolutely. It just comes down to simplifying it in this way. What is it that you're trying to adopt to stay competitive? And in all business, you've kind of mentioned these 3 points: people, systems, and processes.
Yes.
So looking at your current setup in your business within your people, systems, and processes, and figure out how to optimize that. Let me give you a very concrete example. So with us, as we were analyzing, let me actually take a step back and actually share with you 2 case studies. Yeah. I actually met with a very successful apartment syndicator She is a managing partner for a firm that I won't mention, but very successful, managing 80 million in assets under management in her firm, and was, growing responsibly and doing well so for about 10 years. When we met to discuss how we might be able to be a fit, I was asking her, how are you currently, managing your communications, your investor relations, sharing your documents and things like that? She said, all through Excel spreadsheets. And I kind of looked back and said, first of all, that is impressive. But second of all, man, how much more effective and successful your business could be if we were able to adopt some technologies to automate a lot of the things you're doing. And as we took
Absolutely.
an internal audit on her processes, we realized that she was spending way too much time on having investor phone calls and personal webinars, which are things that are really important, to build that personalization. But if you look at what's available now, you're able to cut that down and automate a lot of those processes that should be automated. Contrast that to 19-year-old boys out of Florida. They're called the Donis brothers, blowing up in social media right now. They've started off with doing fix and flips. And they came to us and they said, hey, TJ, we're doing our first syndicated deal. And, we joined a mastermind group. There's one thing that we realized that you guys have in place is they wanted to co-sponsor on a deal. And they said, right now, our problem is this. We don't have a strong track record. We've been flipping deals. We have a good network of people to raise capital with. But we found this deal and we want to actually take it down with one of our co-GPs as a sponsor and a mentor in their group. And when they get the deal, they're able to execute quickly. And basically what I'm trying to say is more than ever, are we able to utilize technology to get past a lot of the things that were huge barriers to get into this business. And so they are going to catch up, in my opinion, very quickly to this gal who I mentioned, who's not adopting technology. And so if I were to recap everything that I'm trying to emphasize, it's technology is supposed to optimize your people, process, and systems. And without you adopting that and being cutting edge, there's a big opportunity or missed opportunity for you and a huge gap of you being disrupted by your competitors as well. Long-winded, but that's what digital transformation means to me and what we're seeing the impacts on.
It's absolutely correct too. I mean, so the hardest thing you will ever do is not starting a business, it's scaling a business, right? I'm living it. I know how hard it is. You're constantly trying to figure out, when can you hire, sometimes you have to spend money before you have it, right? To grow and get to the next revenue rung, right? I mean, if you're launching a product that's that way, you got to go buy a bunch of inventory before, unless you're on a lean pull system before you can sell it. Right. So sometimes you have to spend money before the revenue's there, but know that you're on the right track. So scaling properly is very difficult. And what TJ said is of utmost importance. It is, what people can help you scale properly, but more importantly, what technology can help you scale properly and what will make your people's time more effectively spent. And that, in this space, that leads to like what we're doing. We do an average of 3 to 4 deals at a time, because we have systems, processes, repetitive templates, things we can, you can put it down and come back to it, know exactly what needs to be done. Right.
Absolutely.
I love it, man.
That.
I love it. So the co-sponsorship thing, I'm actually really intrigued by that. And I'm going to be a little selfish and ask about this because we need to learn this too. Not a lot of platforms, I don't know if any actually have this ability out there. So help me understand how that would work, because that is like this. Let me just paint a scenario, right? We are doing a deal that requires an $8 million raise. Okay. Mm-hmm. We have comfortably done about 3 to 4, we need help, okay, to get it done. We can totally operate it, but we need help to get it done. So I have 1 or 2 other people who raise capital. It's what they do. They do it compliantly per the SEC book, all that jazz, right? But we need a way to effectively work together be able to disseminate the same information, disseminate communications, but her investors are her investors. Maybe she doesn't want to put them in my database. Personally, I'd rather just deal with one person, like let her come in as one big investor, and there we go. So how does your platform help with that? I think that is a really key point, that it's a really practical thing, especially if you're doing co-sponsorship deals.
Absolutely. Great question. And first of all, Chad, what you guys are focused on in diversifying your deal flow, strategic deal flows and partnerships that way is absolutely brilliant. You're cutting edge, you and your firm, and you understand how to scale your business in creative ways. And this is definitely one that we've been focused on and that we've been seeing for the last couple of years, which is taking down deals as a co-GP and joint ventures, as you could call it. So you're absolutely right. We are the only platform that has helped streamline this process. And I'll talk about how that would look in app or in our platform. But before that, I'll take a step back and say that once we were kind of analyzing this market trend, we realized there's not an effective way for people to do it and automate and streamline the process. So we talked about methodologies and we talked about digital transformation. This is a perfect example of us saying, this is happening. We see a huge value of us servicing the industry. We're going to take this best practice and embed it into a software, which is our SyndicationPro solution. And so now folks are able to, if there's a syndicator here in Utah, he's looking at, foreign markets outside of his local area and saying, Albuquerque, New Mexico, Kentucky, Cincinnati, those are markets that I want to get into. There's a lot of risks that are involved with going into different foreign markets. So one thing that people have been doing is partnering with other syndicators or investors and taking deals down together faster and mitigating a lot of risk. And now with SyndicationPro, we have what's called a co-sponsor module. And this is very important. All you do is, if you are a SyndicationPro user, you can now send out the co-sponsor module to your co-GP, and then they could tackle the deal down together, which would allow them to essentially create their own portal, load up their LPs, and like you mentioned, without having you, cross-pollinate or transfer information on your limited partner side. And, raising capital is one big part of the value, but they can take down the deal together, manage the deal through tasks management within our portal. And everything is tracked, which is really important for audits, right? So that's what we've created. And the result of that is we have a gentleman who came to us and said, TJ, we have acquired 1,000 new units, acquisitions of multifamily last year in 2020, all through co-sponsor. And he said, I have multiple partners, but the incredible thing is you all have actually created an entirely new business model for us to acquire properties.
Yes.
And that's through partnering. And so, one thing is that's another example of digital transformation, using technology to do these kinds of things. And then the second thing is taking, that's another important piece of how we're able to take methodologies and best practices that we see as sponsors and put it into software to serve our industry. So hope that answers your question, Chad, but it's a really exciting new feature. It's so exciting.
It's such an exciting time to be in this industry. I mean, between what you guys have done with the capital side, I know there's companies out there like simplify.com that are revolutionizing the property management industry with technology, resources and solutions. I mean, it's just an incredible time to be part of this. And the other part of it is artificial intelligence and big data. I mean, if you guys aren't getting on that wave, you better, because you're going to lose. He who has the data is going to win.
Very true.
We're already seeing it. So, well, TJ, this has been a fantastic action-packed episode. I really appreciate you coming on. Got to ask you a couple of questions, though, that everyone gets to answer who comes on here, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
So we at Quattro really believe in knowing your superpower. So tell us, TJ, what is your superpower as it relates to your business?
Absolutely. So I believe that my personal superpower when I add to my businesses is messaging. So understanding the jobs to be done. It's a theory that was created by a Harvard professor named Clayton Christensen. And for me, understanding that theory, jobs to be done, which is essentially focusing on the jobs that people are trying to accomplish. So when they're hiring a product or service, it's a key word is they're hiring the product and a service to get a job done. A lot of the times with marketing and sales, there's a lot of fluff around the messaging and how to position a product, how to position the value of your product or service. But if you're really trying to focus on how to help someone accomplish their job and focusing all your efforts with your messaging on that, that really helps deliver strong value and help you grow your business. And so that encompasses both marketing and strategy. That's my background. And I owe a lot of what I do to that strategy with that theory, the jobs to be done theory. And so my superpower is messaging. And then the second thing for our Syndication Pro, our superpower is helping people essentially get their businesses set up quicker through our portal and help them adopt digital transformation with some of the examples that I shared today. So
that's got to be one of the best answers to that question I've ever heard. That is great. All right. Well, we know you're a successful entrepreneur. You've bought and sold, founded and sold a couple of companies, still part of it. What is your biggest failure to date and what did it teach you? Give me some dirt, man.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I've got a ton of failure. I could talk about failure all day, Chad, and this is truly a part of the process. And my niece, she actually just interviewed me. She goes to the university here in Provo, and she's taken an entrepreneur course. And I probably said failure more times in that interview than any other word. But my biggest failure was my greatest education, and that was my first company that I launched, and that was a fashion company, actually.
Really?
So yeah, I was doing men's clothing. The brand was called Urban Sartorial. We did a lot of interesting things. We essentially just built this gigantic, rocket ship. And because it was a branding company, we were so emotionally attached to our marketing, our brand, our clothing. We actually went and funded the company and all the things through high interest credit cards, man. I was 21 at the time, and it was my first venture. It failed, and I was stuck with a bill of $30,000. And what I did was I took an inventory of all the mistakes that I did, and most people would call me crazy. I actually launched a second fashion company that was the same exact industry, but this time I launched it with only $200.
Wow.
And this is after I read the book, The Lean Startup, which is
Eric Ries, great book.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what I realized was, man, I'm an idiot. I didn't need to spend all this money. I didn't need to do this. And then another thing is, it was so important for me to validate my market, my customer, my product before I even launched anything. So that's a book I would highly recommend. I started my second company, which was exactly the same thing for $200 instead of $30,000. Everyone in my family was like, dude, why are you doing this again? Well, a year later, I grew it to 2 locations, and then I sold it, or 3 locations, and then I sold it to one of my my employees, and I was able to pay off my debt with that. So a year later, and
Wow.
that was an exciting time for me, but that was my biggest mistake and also my biggest learning experience and comeback that I have to date.
I love it, man. I love hearing build back better stories. It's fantastic. I think someone else owns that slogan, but anyway, fantastic, TJ. So at Quattro, philanthropy is one of our 4 pillars. Tell us what philanthropic cause that you are involved in and anything maybe our listeners can help you support.
Yeah. So aside from my, I donate 10% of all my, income to my church, and very focused on that. But aside from that, I'm actually building up a small fund to help people with achieving self-reliance. And what that fund is basically donating 1% of all my income streams and all my revenue, income to that fund. And I'll be partnering with a online school called Lambda School. And then also another online platform called BYU Pathway.
Yeah.
And basically helping to pay tuition. But my mission is to help people achieve self-reliance by creating jobs. So, as an entrepreneur, obviously it's important for us to deliver value and grow a business and company and generate revenue. But truly, Chad, the reason why I do what I do is to create jobs.
Yeah.
I want to create jobs. I love America. I'm a first generation immigrant. My family moved here in 1995. I grew up in a 2-bedroom apartment my whole life with 9 people in the house, less than 1,000 square feet until I was 19 and I moved out. So I have just so much gratitude to God and to America. And I want to create jobs in this country, and I also want to support people with getting their going into school and developing skills through my small fund. So that's what I'm doing.
That is beautiful. If that doesn't get you out of bed in the morning, I don't know what does. I love
It
it.
it's been my biggest motivator since I created this mission to help create jobs and help people get to be self-reliant is the term that I call it.
Yeah.
But it's more motivating than money for me. It's just an incredible mission for me to try to accomplish. So
I love it, man. I love my analogies. Give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. Teach a man to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime. It's great. Once again, I stole that quote from somewhere else. So
you say it better though. I love it. You got that deep voice and you got that, I love it, man.
There it is. There it is. Well, TJ, this has been an action-packed and highly valuable episode. Thank you for agreeing to come on and do this. Tell the listeners where they can get in touch with you, where they can learn more about Syndication Pro, and even if they just want to have a conversation, where they find you.
Absolutely. So syndicationpro.com is our website. You can also reach out my emails on all my social media platforms. You can find me on LinkedIn as well. I'll tell you this, Chad, we value you so much and your listeners as well. Anyone that comes through who's wanting to do a demo, I will personally get on that and give them a proper introduction, not only to myself, but to our solution and see if we can solve any of your listeners' problems. So really looking forward to adding value wherever we can.
I love it, guys. Well, here you have it. You have the man, the myth, the legend. You have someone who is an entrepreneur, someone who's walked in your shoes, likely on both sides as an investor and a deal maker, and someone who has helped create a technology solution to make your life easier. So I think you're foolish if you don't reach out. All right. Well, TJ, thanks for being here, man. This has been another episode of the Real Estate Runway Podcast.
We hope this episode was insightful and brought value to your day. If so, please be awesome and leave us a 5-star review. Find out how Team Quattro can help you at thequattroway.com. Until next time, this is the Real Estate Runway Podcast.